What's up and welcome back. We're continuing on with our journey through the X-Men franchise thanks to X-Men 97 and also the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine film. I've just decided this will be the year. I'm going to get them all out. I'm going to put them all on my channel. Not all of them have audio description. Only some of them do. But we'll tackle that when we get to it. So this is my second look at X2, X-Men United. I think a lot of people forget that it's called X2 X-Men United. Because X2 is fine. You don't need the other part. It's directed by Bryan Singer. It's got returning cast members like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Patrick Stewart as Professor Charles Xavier, Ian McKellan as Eric Lensher, aka Magneto, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, Famke Jansen as Jean Grey, James Marsden as Cyclops, Anna Paquin as Rogue, Shawn Ashmore as Iceman / Bobby Drake, who they seem to not know in this film, even though he was in the first one. It's very weird. Yeah. Bruce Davidson's back, sort of, as Senator Kelly. We've got some new faces here. We've got Halle Berry as Storm. Sorry, before we jump into new faces, I don't want to forget Storm. I got some new faces here. We got Aaron Stanford playing Pyro. We've got Alan Cumming playing Nightcrawler. We've got who else is here? Kelly Hu playing Lady Deathstrike. So Brian Cox, love Brian Cox, playing William Stryker. And some little cameos along the way. You'll pick up on Colossus, Jubilee, just little things. Leech, I think is it Leech or is it Artie? Is it Artie that's changing the TV at the beginning? Anyway, it's Artie, I think. Just little slivers of cameos in the film, and one little nod that Xavier says, "I know a girl who walks through walls." Oh, Kitty Pryde. You do. Who is in this film for like 2 seconds, but you wouldn't know that if you were watching this without audio description. But there is a scene where they show her like running through a wall. It is not L.A. Page. It's someone else. So it's got a broadcast. They expand it. I really love this film. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I watched this film a lot. I think this film is the best representation of the X-Men, like as a group, as what they could be. It focuses on the school. It actually shows you that they have all of these students there. It's really the only film that does that, and it explores a little bit of the student dynamic, because you have Rogue, Iceman, and Pyro, all who are students, and not X-Men, and they're navigating their world, which is separate from how the X-Men navigate their world. And I think that's really strong, and that's something that the other films lose. Even the films when the cast is young, even the films when they're like in first class, or when they're, it's like they all have to make sure that they get those kids to the X-Men as quickly as possible. But we forget that it is a school for gifted youngsters. So X2 is really the film that sort of embraces that spirit of what Xavier's school was created for, in so much that is why Stryker is, he uses that in his plan to attack, to get everybody. They give him this crazy backstory where his son went to the school, and that's why he has a beef with Charles Xavier. Sort of, not really. The character they're giving him as a son is Mastermind, who's not really his son. Jason Wingard is not his son. But that's the character, that's the powers. Charles even calls him Jason. They don't have the same last name. They repurposed a lesser known X-Men character and made him into the Stryker's son. So I guess he's Jason Stryker now. So it's fine. I mean, Mastermind would have never made a film otherwise, if we're being honest. So I guess, just like if you look at the timeline being weird and everything, you do have Banshee's daughter is in this, but we haven't even met Banshee. Like her Siren's in this, but I don't know where she is. Anyway, yeah, so I'm down a rabbit hole here. I could talk to you for hours about X-Men. This is it's what I love about the film is it shows everybody sort of splitting up and doing their own different things and coming back together. The drama feels really good. There are some moments that are set up that are really nice throughout the film. There are some really cool moments. There are moments that I've seen this film so many times where it's like I would have done that differently. I would have thrown a line of dialogue here, like little tweaks that I feel like I could make, having seen the film as many times as I have, and as an X-Men fan. One of the things that I really would have wanted this film to do, and I would have tried to convince Bryan Singer to do, would be to leave Pyro with the X-Men, because I think having him have a much greater conflict of being on the good side, but then still like them trying to figure out how to deal with his temperament, really would have made for an interesting third film, instead of, well, I'm just gonna go follow the bad guys. I felt like his friendship should have been stronger with Bobby, and they should have just trusted on that. And that would have left the conflict for the third film. He didn't necessarily need to go to the other side right away. He could have gone to the other side in the third film after becoming an X-Men. I think his narrative would have been a lot stronger if he had been offered the same spot that the others are offered. At the end of this film, you see the other characters are in their X-Men outfits. And I think if Pyro had been in an X-Men outfit as well, as being part of the three, that he would have been a really sort of interesting character for the third X-Men film. So, yeah. Anyway, when we get to the third X-Men film, I'll talk about why that film does and doesn't work. And there's a lot of lore around that and why it doesn't work. This one, at least, they let Bryan Singer do what he wanted to do. He had made a hit film. He's talked about. I know we're not talking about Bryan Singer anymore, but I am for this. He talked about how he wrote the scene in which Iceman talks to his parents about being a mutant. About it was inspired by his own coming out, and that's why it feels like that kind of a scene where he's like, "Mom, Dad, I have to tell you something. I'm a mutant." It feels like that, but that was what inspired it. Yeah, this is just a great film. I love the score. I love Brian Cox as William Stryker. I just, please give that man an Oscar, or something, or me. And he's just an incredible actor, and he makes for such a great villain in this. And they don't, poor Kelly Hu doesn't get to speak as Deathstrike, so it's really hard to convey to you from being a sighted person side to now a blind person side about what her performance is like, because it's like I realize how non-existent it is, but she does look badass in every single scene. Pretty much the only thing you really ever hear is her like cracking her knuckles, and she doesn't speak. Poor Kelly Hu with no lines. Um, yeah, it's so hard. I look at this film and it's like, God, this is an audio description. What is happening at Disney? This is a Marvel film. When you click on Disney Plus and you go down to the title, you go over to Marvel and it'll show you all the X-Men films. They've got X-Men 97 coming out, which would have been an excellent time to make sure that all the X-Men films were, and honestly, X-Men the animated series, for which X-Men 97 is based on. They could have embraced it and been like, this is the year of X-Men, guys. They are planning on doing X-Men films within the MCU franchise. They've got Wolverine as Hugh Jackman is joining Deadpool this summer. So why not? Why not go back and make sure that all this stuff was um, well done and prepared and ready to go? Instead, you're going to drop X-Men 97, and this series doesn't have audio description. X-Men, the animated series, doesn't have audio description. It's just kind of like it's really hard to get people excited about X-Men 97 when I can't get people excited about X-Men who weren't already excited about X-Men. It's frustrating. Anyway, so X2, yeah, it's got this really interesting plot. It really explores Cerebro. You could go into a lot with, you know, a lot of things like can Xavier really do that? Does he really have the ability to do that? Does that what Cerebro, can he actually focus on every single mutant out there? And think about like all of the other mutants who haven't popped up yet and like what they were going through. Like that should have been like the day of headaches for no apparent reason where everybody was like, oh, do you guys remember when you got that headache? Yeah. What was that day? And everybody, because at first he targets the mutants, so everybody, mutants get, it's a national day of headache. Worldwide headache. Everyone in the world said they experienced having headaches. um, yeah, it's weird. He created sort of a weird universal experience for everybody, I guess. But I'm, they just didn't have room for Alan Cumming, I think, for Nightcrawler, which is why this is the only film Nightcrawler appears in out of the three. He doesn't carry over to the third film. Sorry, I guess that's a spoiler alert, but not really, because I'm talking about X2 and he's in this film. And I don't know. I know my thoughts are all over the place. I feel like I could ramble on and on and on, and I just want to give some final thoughts on audio description. It's impossible to follow this film without audio description if you've never seen it before. Like, absolutely impossible. Punch someone in the face impossible. It's just, you can't see anyone's powers. Like I said, Deathstrike never talks. She never talks in the film, so her character just kind of stands there. You wouldn't understand people's power sets. There are certain things that happen in the film too that are not given text. This is a really well written script, so they don't constantly go, oh no, it's this. What is he doing? He looks like that. They're not giving you verbal affirmations throughout the whole film. So if you don't know what Colossus' powers are, his scene is flat when you notice him. Like I said, Shadowcat just she runs through a wall, but you don't even see it, because of that. You wouldn't know that Iceman builds the ice wall. That's a hard scene to figure out if that's in here. You wouldn't know Artie's changing the channels by blinking his eyes. I'm trying to think of all the little scenes. Wolverine passes Iceman the drink, and Iceman cools it off for him. Instead of actually getting ice cubes, Iceman just uses his powers. When Pyro is sort of destroying everything, and then Rogue touches his ankle and drains his powers, she ends up bringing the flames back down when the police show up after they've shot Wolverine in the head, which is also really hard to follow. Uh, what else? What else we got here? Um, Jason, Mastermind, is sort of is like an adult basically in a wheelchair that sort of looks like he's doped up. He's just kind of like leaning to the side, like just like he's out of it. But he projects illusions, and that's how they get Charles Xavier. So at first Charles sees Jason as Jason, and then when Jason uses his powers, he sees Jason as a little girl. But what's different is the eye color. They play a lot around with eye colors too, which is really not fair in this film. Uh, he has two eyes that are different colors. And they also do that with Mystique to let you know that she is Senator Kelly. When he blinks, it shows her yellow eyes. I don't know. I feel like the list could keep going on of all of the things, all of the little details that are missing. I don't even know how many of these would make the audio description, to be totally honest. Yeah. Rogue and Iceman kiss, and you can visually see the kiss draining the life out of his body. The veins sort of like pop up on the side of his face. I remember this film really well, so we can fight if you want. I could do this all day long. Anyway, maybe it's good there isn't an audio description track, because I'd probably be way more critical of it if there was. I don't know, but it needs to be an audio description track for everyone else. But yeah, if there was one, I'd be like, wait a minute, what? Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? You know, yeah, there's a lot of cool things, a lot of little cool things. Magneto, when he escapes, he pulls, you know, basically Rebecca Romijn gets, looks hot, puts some stuff in the guard's beer. He drinks it, so he has iron in his blood. He has metal or whatever in his system. He goes to visit Magneto. Magneto literally pulls the stuff out of him. There's a little blood. It's PG-13. And then he puts it in these like little balls that fly around the room and just like destroy. They just keep bouncing through things and shattering and destroying as he's exiting the room to be eventually greeted by Mystique. So I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot. There's the watching Jean exit and lift up the X-Jet, the Blackbird, into the air while she's also trying to stop this flood from happening, just long enough to be able to get her friends out of there. And of course the scene where Nightcrawler tries to teleport, it shows him, but he doesn't really go anywhere. He like briefly teleports for like a second. I gotta stop doing this, but there's a lot. But give me a Fox executive and I'll end up like running them down until they, oh my God, put audio description on this. Jesus. Yeah, this is one of my favorite films. So on a personal note, I would give X2 an A+, because I've obviously seen this film far too many times I can't pretend like I don't love it. I can't pretend like, okay, but at the same time, it's unwatchable, guys. It really is. If you're blind and you've never seen the X-Men franchise before, this is unwatchable. The first one was unwatchable. This one's unwatchable. It's hard to understand the powers and how they're being used without it. I have seen X2 more than X-Men. I've seen X2 more than any of the other X-Men films in the franchise. It's the film I like the most. If probably the one goof, and where you're like, you shouldn't give it an A+ if you think, the fact that they're like, Logan doesn't know who Bobby Drake is, even though Shawn Ashmore was in the first film, is bizarre to me. But other than that, I'm always like, wait a minute, he was in the first movie. I mean, he didn't have a huge part, but he was in the first movie. That's it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'm going to continue to go on with the series. We'll see if it picks up audio description at any point. I'm going to guess probably Logan. Maybe Logan has it. We'll see. Anyway, that's it. You can follow me on X, Twitter, Instagram, Mac the Movie Guy, MacTheMovieGuy.com, audio description project, aep.acb.org. We'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. You can go to the adna.org, that's the adna.org, to let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else and see you guys on the other side.